Hi, this is Joe with another video. For this video, I'm going to do a kind of a different video. I'm going to do a tribute to arguably the greatest Met player of all time, which is George Thomas Seaver, who just yesterday has been diagnosed with dementia. And he's not going to do any more public appearances. He's not going to be doing any card autograph signings and stuff like that. So I figured to do kind of like a tribute video to Tom Seaver. Of course, when you're behind me, you can tell that I'm a Mets fan. So it's kind of goes hand in hand for being a Tom Seaver fan. Of course, the reason why Tom Seaver became so sick is because he first actually came down with Lyme disease, and he had such a bad case of it that I think it eventually developed into dementia, because he was already developing some memory loss already, and now had a full-blown case of dementia, which was quite sad. Now, those of you who don't know Mets history, you wasn't even born then, like I was. I wasn't even born then when Tom Seaver first came on the Mets in he actually got drafted in 1960, I think 65, and his first professional year was in 66. I think it was drafted in 66, and for the 66 season, and he was in the minors, and then he came up in 67, and the ring Rookie of the Year, and then the ring 3 Cy Young Awards. The first one being, of course, in the World Series year was 1969. You can see with the pen here behind me, the pen came up for 1994 for the 25th anniversary year. And you see right behind me here, I have my finger on it, on that pen. And the reason why he was on the Mets, he wasn't originally drafted by the New York Mets. He was originally drafted by the Dodgers out of high school. And what happened was he decided to go to college. Well, one year, when he was still in college, pitching for USC, his team, he eventually got drafted by the Atlanta Braves. But unfortunately, that contract eventually became null and void, because his team, Tom Seaver's team, which was USC, of course, played 2 exhibition games against the U.S. Marines in San Diego when Seaver was still with USC. So apparently, the Dodgers blew the whistle on the Atlanta Braves for signing him illegally, because his team played 2 games, even though they weren't originally scheduled. They were like 2 exhibition games, and they weren't even originally on the schedule. But what happened was the Dodgers blew the whistle. The Braves signed Seaver illegally. Well, when that kind of became null and void, the NCAA didn't allow Seaver to continue playing for USC because he signed a professional contract. So Tom Seaver's father says, my son is going to play either professional ball or college ball. He's going to play one or the other, or somebody's going to pay for it. So the baseball commissioner, William Eckert, at that time, decides to sell the whole thing and to have a special draft. Anybody who was interested in signing or making an offer to Tom Seaver could put the names in their hats and draw the name out. They have exclusive rights to negotiate a contract with Tom Seaver. And there were like 3 teams in the proverbial hat, which was, of course, the Mets, of course, was the team that eventually won the rights to Seaver, the Cleveland Indians, and the Atlanta Braves. But the team that should have been in the hat was the Dodgers, and they screwed up. Buzzy Rivasi, who was the GM for the Dodgers, messed up with the telegram to send to the commissioner's office, because they were busy negotiating with 2 holdouts by the name of Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale. So because of what was going on with Sandy Koufax and Drysdale, Buzzy Rivasi forgot to send the telegram. So conceivably, the Dodgers could have been one of the teams in the hat, and William Eckert pulled the Mets out of the hat, of the drawing there for Seaver. And of course, Seaver became, of course, a Met. And like I say, he won Rookie of the Year in 67, and then in 1969, the Mets won the World Series, and Seaver won the Cy. He won like 25 games that year. Imagine being anybody ranked 20. You could barely have a guy rank 20 games in the major leagues today. The way the pitching they handle the pitchers today, like Jacob DeGrom just won the Cy Young Award. He just won 10 games. I mean, that's unheard of for a pitch. Even though DeGrom had a great year, it was unfathomable to have a guy win 10 games to win the Cy Young Award. It's unbelievable the way pitchers are used today. Anyway, after Seaver won he won his other 2 Cy Young Awards in 1973, when the Mets won the pennant in '73, and then again in 1975 he won the 3rd Cy Young in 1975 for the Mets. But of course, one thing they should mention is when Tom Seaver ended his first tenure with the Mets, which was on June 15th, 1977, which was then the original trade deadline, was June 15th, 1977, and now it got pushed back to July 31st. But the original trade deadline in Major League Baseball was June 15th, and forever June 15th, 1977 will be known as the Midnight Massacre. Because of this. Tom Seaver pitched his last game with the Mets in Houston, in which he won. He won like 198 games in a Met uniform. And the Mets went from Houston to Atlanta. And Jack Lang, who was writing, I think, at that time for the New York Daily News, wrote the whole thing that Tom Seaver was, and his wife, Nancy Seaver, was jealous of Nolan Ryan and Ruth Ryan, because Nolan Ryan at that time was playing for the Angels after being traded from the Mets to the Angels, California Angels, because they were making so much money with the Angels, and the Mets, and Seaver was getting all this flack with M. Donald Grant, who was a cheapskate. And it was a piece of garbage, and saying that Tom Seaver was jealous of, that's why Tom Seaver was asking for so much money, because if Nolan Ryan could make so much money for playing for a lousy team, which the Angels were then, until '79 when the Angels finally won the first divisional title in '79, Seaver was making all the money for a lousy team and pitching for a better team than the Angels were, even though the Mets were going downhill by then as a team. Now you should be making more money than Ryan is. And so Jack Lang is always jealous of Ryan, Nolan Ryan and stuff. So he says, forget. At first he negotiated a contract with an extension with the Mets. But afterwards, Jack Lang wrote the article, because Jack Lang since passed away, says when Tom Seaver was shown that Jack Lang article by the Dick Young column, not Jack Lang, it was Dick Young who wrote that column. Jack Lang was the one who showed Tom Seaver that story. So excuse me, Jack Lang, I know he's passed away, Jack Lang, but I meant to say Dick Young, not Jack Lang. So let me correct myself there. Jack Lang showed Tom Seaver the Dick Young column, when Dick Young said blasting Seaver for being jealous and stuff. But a lot of people forget it was Dick Young's son, at the time, was working for the New York Mets. Was working for the New York Mets management. So he had a little bit of personal stake of blasting Seaver for being a greedy ball player and all that type of stuff. So when Seaver saw Dick Young's column, he bolted out of his chair, same way the pool, and says, that's it. Calls up the Mets management, calls up Arthur Richmond, who was the traveling secretary for the Mets, tell them the deal's off. And that night he was traded to Cincinnati. So, and that was called, the most infamous other than the Nolan Ryan trade, this was the most infamous moment in New York Mets history. And one of the most tragic events in New York Mets history was that moment. Of course, he was with Cincinnati for 5.5 years. And then in 1983, what I should mention before I'm going back to his tenure with the Mets, that exactly one year after he was traded, it was June 16th, 1978, when Tom Seaver finally threw his first no-hitter. And his only no-hitter in his Major League career. And of course, right after Nolan Ryan, of course, started the trend of former Met players throwing no-hitters for other teams. First it was Ryan, then it was Seaver, then about 5 or 6 other pitchers, 2 no-hitters for other teams, before the Mets finally got one with Johan Santana in 2012. Anyway, after 5.5 years with Cincinnati, Tom Seaver came back to the Mets. It was a whole big deal. And Tom Seaver pitched opening day for the Mets in 1983 against the Phillies, against another future Hall of Famer, Steve Carlton. And of course, that was huge. I remember watching that game on TV, at least the beginning of it. I think the game for a while was on YouTube, and it was taken, and that game was taken down, which is a shame. But Tom Seaver only pitched like 5 innings. He didn't get the win. Doug Sisk ironically got the win in that game, not Tom Seaver. And the Mets won the game, as they usually do on opening day. They usually win. And I actually went to 2 games that year in '83 because the Mets were so bad. And Tom Seaver pitched both those 2 games. It was a thrill. As a matter of fact, I have the promotion of the first game, which was a bat, which I should have brought out. I still have the bat, the 2 bats actually, because my sister and I both got bats. It was a bat day. And it was the first bat day the New York Mets had. It was against the Atlanta Braves. It was on Sunday, May 1st, 1983. It was Manufacturers Hanover was the sponsor. Of course, nowadays there's no more Manufacturers Hanover. It was a blue bat with the orange NY on the barrel of the bat, and it was all painted blue. I still have the 2 bats in my closet. And Tom Seaver pitched against the Braves, and of course he pitched against Phil Niekro. So that's the interesting thing about that game, was that Tom Seaver pitched against Phil Niekro, 2 future Hall. It was the only time I ever saw 2 future Hall of Famers pitching against each other in the same game. But unfortunately, Tom Seaver lost that game, 2-1. But I saw him later on against the Cubs in August. We gave our Sports Bag Day. It was the second ever Sports Bag Day in Mets history. They had the first one the year before, which I couldn't get tickets for because it was practically sold out. And I saw Seaver pitch that game, and not only did the Mets won the game, he got the win. So it was a thrill to see Tom Seaver at least twice in my career. I also felt big deal. I saw like Greg Maddux like 2 or 3 times, twice with the Braves. At least once with the Cubs, and once with the Braves at least. So it was no big deal. But of course, at the end of '83, I should mention that Tom Seaver was not on the protection list. What I mean is that each team gets to pick like 40 guys, to protect on their rosters, and anybody could pick anybody off of the who was not on the protected list. Tom Seaver, since he was almost 40 years old by then, I think he was about maybe like 38 years old or something like that at that time. So who would pick a 38-year-old pitcher on the downside of his career? Well, the Chicago White Sox picked him up, and he pitched like a little more than 2 years. He pitched the entire 1984 season, the entire 1985 season. I think about almost half, or at least a quarter of the 1986 season. And then Tom Seaver went to the Red Sox for 1986, and ironically was in the dugout, the Red Sox dugout, during the 1986 World Series. Of course, we all know what happened, with the Mets. And ironically, the Red Sox played the Mets in the '86 World Series, which of course eventually the Mets won. But Tom Seaver was sitting in the dugout, and Seaver couldn't pitch in any of those games because he was injured. He was hurt with a bad knee. He had to have knee surgery, so he couldn't. He was injured, so he couldn't play. He couldn't pitch against his old team. So I mean, what a great story that would have been of Tom Seaver pitching his first World Series in 13 years, literally in 13 years, just like the Mets. Because Tom Seaver, the only 2 World Series that Seaver pitched in was in '69 and '73. He didn't pitch one with the Reds. He never pitched in the World Series with the Reds. I'm not sure if he pitched. I don't think he even pitched in the playoffs for Cincinnati. '79 maybe, but he never pitched for in the World Series for the Reds at all, and and of course he never didn't pitch for the White Sox. It was after the White Sox were in the playoffs the year before in '83, so he didn't pitch for the White Sox in the playoffs or the Red Sox because he was hurt, unfortunately. So could have been a huge, tremendous story of Tom Seaver in his last year, which turned out to be his last year of his career. Well, the last moment of him in uniform was him in the dugout during Game 7 of the World Series in Shea Stadium, and he couldn't pitch. I mean, how great would that have been? But at least during his tenure with the White Sox, he won his 300th game, which he did right here in New York, but unfortunately in the wrong stadium. He did it in Yankee Stadium, not in Shea, because those days he didn't have interleague play then. And Tom Seaver pitched his 300th game on Phil Rizzuto Day, which I always will remember it. I remember I was watching the game, and watched the end of the game, and watched the beginning of it, with the whole ceremony they had with Tom Seaver, with Phil Rizzuto, and they brought out a cow with a halo on its head, because of course Phil Rizzuto was famous for yelling holy cow," all the time during Yankee broadcasts. He became more of a famous announcer than Mel Allen was, and they gave Phil Rizzuto the cow, and the cow knocked Rizzuto on his ass. Literally, I am not joking, you folks. And so during the game, Tom Seaver won his 300th game. On the day they honored Phil Rizzuto, they retired his number and the whole spiel that went with that. And then later on, when Tom Seaver retired, the Mets didn't hire him right away. I think it was like in 88, he took like a year off. In 1989, he got hired as a Yankee broadcaster because Bill White eventually became president of the National League in for the 1989 season. When Bart Giamatti became commissioner, somebody had to fill the National League president's role, and the National League hired Bill White to be the National League president, so somebody had to replace him as Yankee announcer to work with Phil Rizzuto, and they hired Tom Seaver because the Mets wouldn't hire him at the time. And so for years, I forgot how many years Seaver worked as a Yankee announcer. I forgot how long it was. He worked there, but he worked there as a. He always used to stick it to Rizzuto on the day that he won his 300th game, which was to get Rizzuto pissed off a lot. Excuse me. I straightened my throat earlier today, so my voice is going a little bit. But after 3 years of working with the Yankees, Tom Seaver finally became a Hall of Famer in 1992. His first year in the ballot, and at that time, until Ken Griffey Jr. came along, and then of course eventually Mariano Rivera this year, 2019. Tom Seaver had the highest voting percentage ever for the Hall of Fame vote. He was named the 425 of the 430 ballots cast that year. And 3 of those sports writers sat in a blank ballot because that was the year that P. Rose would have been eligible for the Hall of Fame as well. So imagine if Tom Seaver and P. Rose going in the same Hall of Fame class, along with Wally Fingers. How a great class that would have been. But the other 2 sports writers, they had no excuse of not voting for Tom Seaver. So he could have been voted for 328 of the 430 ballots. And the only one who beat that record was Rivera, because it was 900%. But Ken Griffey Jr. 3 years ago, 2016, broke the record by two votes. He only got 2 votes more than Seaver did. In terms of the percentages on the ballot, I think it was like 427. Only 3 sports fighters didn't vote for Griffey in 2016. But he had the record, until when he got sick with Lyme disease, Tom Seaver was there every year. And at least he was there when the other player who saw his career as a Met, Nolan Ryan, 7 years later got it. And Nolan Ryan almost tied Tom Seaver's record for the highest percentage. He missed it by like 1 vote. Because he was picked for like only 6 votes short of getting 100% Nolan Ryan. And then you had Cal Ripken behind him. So that's one of the highest percentages until, of course, Rivera broke everybody. Until Ken Griffey Jr. got 3 votes short, and then now you have Rivera who got 100%. But Tom Seaver, of course, deserves all the votes to get. And a lot of people were surprised that Seaver got that kind of percentage. Of course, that year you had a pretty weak class. Because you had Tony Perez was on the ballot the first year, then he didn't get into like year 2000. You also had Wally Fingers was on the second year of the ballot. So you didn't really have a huge big competition against Tom Seaver that year. I think a lot of people were complaining because Tom Seaver would be the first. He was the first recognized Mets player in the Hall of Fame at that point in '92. Because don't forget you had Duke Snyder, you had Willie Mays, you had Yogi Berra, you also had Casey Stengel as a manager, Joe Weiss as an executive. I think those were all the. Warren Spahn, I forgot about Warren Spahn. All those guys were in the Hall of Fame already who, at one time or another, wore a Met uniform. Except for George Weiss. He was the first team president of the New York Mets. But, except for George Weiss, everybody else wore a Met uniform one time or another, and Tom Seaver was the first recognized Met in the Hall of Fame. And look what happened after Seaver got in. You had Richie Ashburn, 62 Met. You had, of course, Ricky Henderson. You had Muto Alomar. I'm talking about guys who are not recognized as Mets in the Hall of Fame. Of course, eventually going to get to Piazza, who became the second person recognized as a man in the Hall of Fame, Mike Piazza. But of course, then you had, of course, Tom Glavine in there, piece of garbage, Tom Glavine. You had Joe Torre. Yes, I'm calling Joe Torre a Met as well, because he played. Not only did he play for the Mets, he was also the only player manager in New York Mets history. He managed the Mets, he played for them, and you of course you had Roy Herzog was a Mets executive. He's in the Hall of Fame as a manager for the Cardinals of all teams. So you have several Mets. Of course, Mike Piazza, of course, is the second one. Anybody else? I don't think you're never going to have another Met in there. We're going to say Beltran. For Beltran, if Beltran gets in as a Met when he's eligible, it's going to be a disgrace. I have to say it's going to be a disgrace. Because he cost the Mets the pennant in 2006. I don't care what anybody says he cost the Mets the pennant. May not speaking the back. But getting off topic, Tom Seaver deserves all the accolades he had. I mean, pretty much what I think is the same about Seaver, except that he got his autograph a couple of times at different shows. Last time was in 1994 on the Mets ball that I have, which they should show. Second, I have this ball is signed by every member of the, except for technically 3 guys, but one passed away, Cal Kuntz, so I can't get him on the ball. So, but I got missing 2 guys, Duffy Dyer and Ken Boswell. There's only 2 guys that are missing for this ball. And Tom Seaver's autograph, and I'm going to pick up in the camera, is right here. That's Tom Seaver's autograph. That's, yeah. That's Tom Seaver's autograph right there, just above Jimmy. You have Jim McAndrew and you have Tom Seaver right here. And then, but instead of signing his name, holding the ball like this and signing his name, he held the ball like this and signed his name. So it's okay for signing like this. I said, yeah, it's fine. And then so I got Ross Swoboda, who signed his autograph right underneath Seaver, says, oh, you realize that Seaver signed his name. I was saying that this way instead of this way. So he said, anybody who won 300 games, took over 600 batters, is in the Hall of Fame for signing his name any way he wants. And of course, also, if you look close, on the bottom, that's Nolan Ryan's autograph. Right there, baby. I got Nolan Ryan, folks. And these autographs are all legit autographs. And I'm very proud that I have this ball. And I'm going to Al Jackson, Olszewski, J.C. Moore, Tommy Agee, Don Cordwell, Ed Cranepool, Jack Delario, Tug McGraw, just passed away as well. Jerry Kuzman, Rob Taylor, Nolan Ryan. Of course, I got Gary Gentry, J.C. Moore, Olszewski, and Al Jackson all on this ball, and I'm only missing 2 guys. So anybody out there who has a show in New York City, you gotta get Ken Boswell and Duffy Dyer. Do a whole 1969 Mets show. Those who are able to come and do it, so you can get these guys so you can finish this ball off. And I'm very proud to have this ball. I was able to get Tom Seaver's autograph before he got sick, and it's a big thrill for me that I have this ball. It's a shame they couldn't have an '86 Met ball because Gary Carter had passed away. That's if we use this ball and get all the autographs from that ball. But it's a thrill, and I know it's going to run a little long here this video, but I cannot praise Tom Seaver enough. Even though a lot of people say, "Oh, Tom Seaver's a jerk," or "He's a snob," because I heard when I was doing the baseball car show market back in the early '90s, I only see people complain about Tom Seaver being a snob, being a piece of garbage and stuff like that. And he wasn't a piece of garbage for me. I mean, if you act like a jerk when you get an athlete's autograph, no matter who it is, if you act like a jerk towards that particular player, it's going to act like a jerk back. I mean, to me, it's that simple. If you act like an asshole, he's going to treat you like an asshole back. And that's how I feel about it. So, but Seaver deserves all the praise he can and all the love he can right now, because he's all the support from Met fans. And also, by the way, for those of you who are, I should mention this before I show you this video, any of you who are Tom Seaver fans, I have created a Facebook page for Tom Seaver called Die Hard Tom Seaver Fans on Facebook. Please look for it and join up, and we can talk about our favorite memories of Tom Seaver, or if we want to share pictures or videos or whatever, or your favorite memories of Tom Seaver. Please join that group page. So that's my tribute video to Tom Seaver. Please click on the video, please read it. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video to your Facebook pages. You can check out all my reviews and on my YouTube channel at rallyc.com. That's on WDY. C.com. That's a homepage to Rally Reviewer. Chris Lee Moore. Excuse me, that's my phone. And please check out all of his videos on this website as well. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.